So once upon a time, long, long ago, somebody said, what's going on? How can I be safe? How can I protect my family? How can I make sure we have food and shelter? And that question led to all sorts of different things. Shamanism, but especially religion. Eventually it came down to religion, in which people negotiated with the gods to make life a little more predictable, a little less threatening and unpredictable. So it's the part of human reasoning to try and predict, to try and create an environment and a situation in which we feel safe. And as a result of that, we have religions, we have belief systems, we have ways of behaving, and we sort of tend to adhere to these things in this quest for some sort of certainty and predictability. And it goes in the face of the way the world is. So what this means is that when we believe in things too hard, when we think that things should be a certain way, which of course religions do, religions by nature are judgmental, and they try and, judge right from wrong, fair enough. But if everything has to be predictable in this way, then we're losing something. And apart from losing something, we're actually trying to see the world in a way that it isn't. We're trying to behave in a way that isn't really compatible with the way things are. So when the Buddha came along and he called his method dharma, the law, he was talking about the law, the way things work. So his idea was that we adapt our minds, our expectations, our way of thinking to the way things are. And that is a source of harmony. But when you're trying to wrestle with the world, when you're trying to make the world conform to what you want it to be, then it's hard, When I was young, I really tried to believe in the religion that was handed down to me. And I thought that my job was to become some sort of a saint. Okay. I mean, I wasn't good at it, but that's what I felt I should try to do. And I was trying to do what I was told. I was trying to do what was supposed to be good. And I wasn't exploring. I wasn't looking out to see, well, what does good mean? What does it mean to live a fulfilled life? But when I left religion behind, when I left that sort of religion, that sort of solid, single-pointed belief, and I left that behind and I allowed my life to become much less certain, which was a little bit frightening, I actually found myself on more solid ground. And then I encountered Buddhism and I discovered that that's exactly the ground that the Buddha talks about, the ground of uncertainty. If you can accept that, if you can live with that, you come to life in a sense that, because you cannot take anything for granted. And it brings so much more into your conscious mind, and it gives you so many more decisions to make, but you have the insight and you have the experience with which to make those decisions. It's not just coming from theory or from a book or from somebody told you how you should do things, how you should live, how you should treat other people, how you should treat yourself. One of the things that I learned was to treat myself with disdain, to put myself on the back burner all the time, to consider myself unimportant, even small and really not really a very wholesome thing. I was encouraged to believe that. And this is all in the name of being good and being saintly and being wholesome. And it didn't work. Now, I'm not blaming religion. I'm blaming people. and I include me, I'm blaming the human need, the human craving for certainty, and the difficulty that we have in accepting there is no certainty. So as we adapt to the uncertainty of the world, as we get used to the fact that things don't always happen the way we want, things sometimes go exactly the opposite way, then we have a different perspective. And yeah, when you talk about it, when I describe it, it sounds a lot less comfortable than that nice certainty of knowing that I'm saved, I'm doing everything right, I'm going to die and go to heaven at the end of this life. That sounds more secure and it sounds happier. But in reality, the experience of it is not like that at all. Because in the back of your mind, there's always doubt. Because no matter how much you crave certainty, there's a part of you which will always know that life is uncertain. You don't know. The first thing I was taught when I became a Buddhist was, one day you're going to die. You don't know when it's going to be. Could be this afternoon. So keep that in mind and live according to that. And of course, most people don't want to do that because it sounds depressing. It sounds awful. But the reality is that when you do that, when you actually embrace uncertainty, then you're leaving behind a lot of expectations and judgments which can only disappoint you. You're actually creating a great deal of freedom. And you're also creating the foundation for real wisdom, because it's based on the reality of your experience, not on theory, not on what somebody else said about how things should be. We have to discover our life for ourselves. I don't care how correct somebody else's interpretation of life is, it's not mine, and it's not my experience. It's just words. So it's for me to discover that. So by embracing uncertainty, what happens is that we do find ourselves. We find a wholeness to the way things are, because they were never broken down into bits. And that's a part of what this whole questioning, how can I make life secure? How can I negotiate with the gods to make sure that I get a good harvest this year, or that my family is healthy and safe, or that I gain the correct knowledge and I'm able to explain things the way that they are. I can do all those things, but I'm not on edge. I don't have that stress. The stress of uncertainty is not necessarily a bad thing. Stress is not a bad thing. Too much stress is. Too little stress also is not good. We need to be motivated. We need to have hopes and a certain amount of cravings, I suppose. But we also need to know that we may or may not achieve them, that things can go wrong, things are unexpected. So with that in mind, we become more conscious, we become more ethical, really. We become more moral because we understand what we're doing. We understand, or we see in real time, the consequences of our behavior, of our words, of our being. And so we take more responsibility. We're more awake. We're more there. We're present. We're really showing up for our own life. And the wholeness is simply the way that things always were. They were never broken down into these right and wrong, and what's the correct way to do things, the incorrect way, what is the way that I should be, and I'm in conflict with myself because I can't be that way. This is how we fragment things. This is how we break things down. And the world around us, this confusing world, which today seems particularly threatening, which seems to be full of war and suffering and anger and incomprehension. People unable to understand or listen to each other because they believe that things should be a certain way. And they can't talk and exchange ideas and accept that life is unpredictable, uncertain, and that the only way to really survive is to cooperate. But we forget that. Read a history book, anyone, any period of history you like. You'll see, yeah, periods of peace and stability come, but periods of war and instability also come. That's the way life is. So when we're looking for wholeness, if you try and create wholeness in the world, if you wish for world peace, it's a wonderful wish, but you're going to be disappointed. So focus on the uncertainty, accept the way things are, and learn to be that much more conscious, that much more present in your life. And that is what mindfulness can do for you. And that is what that particular attitude can do for your practice of mindfulness, by keeping uncertainty in the front of your mind all the time.